Hi everyone, my name's Jacob, and in this video I'll be rehousing my favourite ant colony of false weaver ants. They're currently housed in this tank which measures 50cm by 30cm by 30cm, and it is big enough for them really, but recently I found this tank on the side of the road which is 30cm longer and also slightly deeper and taller. Straight away I knew I had to move them into it. Their current enclosure is big enough really for them, but I'd like to be able to see them have some longer trails and really make them work for their food. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I began by cutting a foam mat to the length of the stand instead of the tank, as the tank slightly overhangs on both edges. It will help evenly distribute the weight of the tank and protect the stand from scratches. Whilst the white stones used in the drainage layer in the previous tank were nice, they took away from the immersion, so this time they'll be hidden by the plastic lip at the bottom. I evenly spreaded it out, which will allow water to drain from the substrate without it becoming waterlogged. I trimmed a sheet of geotextile fabric down to size, just larger than the area of the tank, so the edges fold up, creating a sort of bowl for the substrate. Now the substrate I'm using is a homemade mix. It retains moisture really well and also doesn't compact too easily. As I want this vivarium to be full of plants, I'll be adding 2 entire boxes of isopods. I've had these colonies for a year now, and I've been waiting for the perfect build to use them in. Not only will they eat any decaying matter and reduce mould, but the substrate they're on is composed of mainly their frass, which is an excellent fertiliser and will greatly enrich the soils. I've tapered the soil up slightly to the back and centre to increase a sense of depth. From the start I've known I'd reuse spiderwood in this build for a couple reasons. Its winding structure gives the ants plenty of places to weave nests, gives me room to add epiphytic plants, but would also be very difficult to remove the ants from their current piece of spiderwood, so I'll reuse the pieces from the Hardscape as well. Once I was happy with the wood on the right, I turned my attention to the ants. Before they can be moved in, an escape-proof barrier needs to be added. I found that talcum powder and alcohol is by far the most effective method with an arboreal species like these. Another benefit of this tank is that it has a lid, meaning that as long as I keep the powder above a certain point, it will be completely hidden, so not breaking any immersion. I pulled the pieces of wood from the old tank and arranged them into a formation that I was happy with. From now on I'd need to be careful not to disturb the wood too much, as the colony was now added and not too happy being moved around like this. I did this on a slightly cooler day with all my windows open, to slow the ants down so they'd stay in the nest, making my life that bit easier. Now I could move on to my favourite part, the planting. Starting off big, I'm adding a bird's nest fern to really fill the space and add height on the right to complement the taller wood on the left. Crocodile ferns are added next. They're slightly smaller than the bird's nest fern and have a different leaf structure, so complement each other nicely. As they're epiphytic, I can wrap their roots up in damp sphagnum moss and wedge them into small crevices and gaps on the branches, adding variation in the levels of plants, instead of having them all from the same height on the floor. Now that most of the plants are added, I could move my attention to the floor of the tank. Cork bark flats were included to add some variation and also provide shelter for the ice pods. Sphagnum moss and leaf litter were also littered around to further break up the plain soil. To light this tank, I'll be using an LED strip light, as this will allow me to view the ants under any colour, especially red at night, as apparently they can't see red light. However, this by itself isn't suitable for the plants, as it doesn't provide enough light so they can photosynthesize and thrive. So I'll also be reusing the light from their old tank. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this build, and hope it encourages you to make a vivarium of your own. I'll leave you all with some final shots, so sit back and enjoy. Or, if you're not too interested in that, you can click off now, but make sure to hit that subscribe button as you do. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me this time, and I hope to see you all soon.